Welcome to How to Do Digital Ministry, the show where we talk about how to do digital ministry. I am one of your hosts, Reverend Jim Keat, Digital Minister at the Riverside Church, Director of Online Innovation at Convergence. I should know what I do, I think. And co-host with this episode, the one and only Reverend Bethany. I want to say Rev Bethany because that's how it shows up all over the internet.
Yeah, Rev Bethany is good.
You're in Denver doing all things digital ministry. So
Yep.
before we dive in on talking about how to cultivate community online, which is what we're talking about, what's happening in Denver and what's happening in your corners of Denver?
Well, the Denver Nuggets are the national champions for basketball, so
Good work. Way
we
to
had a
go.
lot of
You
good
did it.
parades and some parties out in town, so that's been really fun. Especially being a Detroit girl, like the last national championship parade I remember was Red Wings, which was ages ago.
Oh, little while,
So
little while.
love it. Um, yeah, it's been a little bit rainy. People are a little bit sad, but they also complain about not having enough water. So I'm like, I feel like this is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone who was watching this hopefully knows all the great things you're up to, but in case they don't, you're in Denver, like legitimately just doing digital ministry and
Yep.
cheering on the Denver Nuggets. You are helping the Presbytery of Colorado.
Presbytery of Denver. Yeah. So there's
Denver,
a couple
okay.
of them in Colorado. But yeah, Presbytery of Denver, they have a great network of what the PCUSA calls new worshiping communities. And they have started 4 new ones like now, and I'm one of those, and they're calling it an incubator. And so we're doing all different things. Some of us are doing like hiking and service. Other people are working with minority groups in the Denver area. Mine is complete church, online, digital spaces. How do we make digital sacred for people? How do we reach people in those theological deserts that don't have access to many options in Christianity, so that they can maintain their faith, their relationship with God, but maybe don't have an in-person church that's going to be able to care for them in the way
Whew.
that they deserve.
Yeah, that alone. I mean, I love you were doing this stuff before you were in Denver as like, a thing you just did while being a pastor at a church, and now it's nice that you can just do this.
Yes.
So big kudos to the Presbytery of Denver for,
Yes.
believing in an investment like this. Big fan, big fan.
Yeah.
Which brings us wonderfully to what we're going to talk about today. How to cultivate community online. So I don't know if you ever hear people telling you that online stuff isn't real, and unless you're in the physical space, it doesn't count. And internet friends aren't friends. Although you and I have only ever been in the same physical place once,
Yeah, like a couple
twice,
hours.
twice. We had coffee when you were in town the other time too.
Yeah.
Barely. Okay. So just maybe if we were sitting down for coffee and I'm dipping my toe into this digital stuff, what would you say? How do you cultivate community online? How do you even go about doing that?
I have been shocked at how not very different it is. You care about the people, you create connections with them, you reach out, you listen to them, and a lot of the people I work with, they don't have an in-person person that's going to care for them in this way, so a phone call is everything to them. So I think not degrading that experience of just talk, it's just talking on the phone, it's just meeting on Zoom, it's just a chat room. These are real words that people know you're saying in a
Yeah.
real way, and they know that you're carried. As long as they know those things, it's pretty much what we do in person when we see people. I would say it takes a little bit more intentionality because you're not walking into a room on Sunday and being like, "Oh, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on?" You have to be like, "Okay, who haven't I seen in a while? Who haven't I heard, an update from?" and be intentional about reaching out for that. But otherwise, it's relationship.
Yeah. That's so huge. Just letting people even learn that or I mean, I think we've all encountered it because of the past, few years of what we've experienced around the world and everyone being pushed to, you know, encounter online spaces in a new way. But I think people need to be reminded again and again that these online things are still real relationships. I mean, I think I've literally been saying this for over a decade, but virtual is not the opposite of real. It's the opposite of physical. They're both real. Just because someone shares something in an online space doesn't mean it's not a real emotional sharing that's being shared and received. But then, so yeah, maybe it's a matter of just reminding our own people again and again and again, especially the people who are in the physical space. These digital things are also valid and they're doing something that's significant.
Yeah, I would say that that's also really important to not, you have to really cultivate some leaders who are also going to reach out. So it's not just like, oh, the pastor is the only one who reaches out to me. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this other person that's on Zoom, they care, they greet each other, and so you do kind of have to be intentional about telling people, like, hey, have you talked to so and so? Could you be one of my leaders? That just kind of in the back of your head is like, who haven't I heard from? Who do I need to
Yeah.
reach out to? Engaging with other conversations that's happening in the chat room. So I've got a Discord and being like, I realize you saw it, you read it, even just a like, a heart, so that I know you were there is really helpful for me to be like, oh, I was seen, someone saw my thing. Maybe they didn't have anything to add or, say a comment back, but they saw what's going on in my life.
Say a bit about Discord, because so far we've said Zoom and Discord as, some of those platforms that can be used to cultivate community. We probably all know what Zoom is. We've all been on that 1,000 times over our lifetime now. And hopefully people are still using it. I still use it every week at Riverside, and what we do, I mean, more than every week. Every week on Sunday, we have some specific Zoom things that I'll talk about in a minute. But Discord, I am a Discord newbie in many ways. I am trying to learn this thing because all of the cool people I know are using it, and I'm like, okay, there must be something there. So I just need to dive in and start splashing. But what is it, and how or why would you use it to help cultivate community in these online spaces?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm a newbie too because I have a person who's part of our tapestry, my ministry, who is an expert, and so they're the ones who have set it up and done all the fancy things with it. So I just kind of engage, but it's essentially a chat room. It started as a place where like gamers would go to like talk about this level and what do I do to get past this boss and that kind of thing. But it's definitely expanded, especially during COVID. I have chat rooms with like my friends. So instead of having a group text, we have a Discord channel where we can say like, "Hey, how's everyone going?" We have different things like, general, the next camping trip talk, random meetups, our kids, so that anyone who's got kids talks about their kids in this other one. So they have kind of this segmented conversation that you can go in and talk to just the people who have kids or just the people who are going on the camping trip. And so for my ministry, we have the general, we have an introductions page, but we also have like a memes place, like memes that could help, like memes that were like, oh man, that really like hit my spiritual soul. Let me share it. We have a place where it's like, just like sacred space where we can talk about different like devotionals that we've seen or heard. So it just kind of is a chat room. And it's open 24/7. So, yeah.
Okay, hearing a lot of that is helpful just for me as I'm learning this stuff. But like I've been thrown into the world of Slack for a lot of areas of my professional life, and Discord has a lot in common with Slack in like making channels. But Slack is very much feels like it's a work tool that solves the problem of email sucks. Discord feels like it lives in more of a anyone can join community kind of space, and it's a part of your life, but it does a similar thing. Whereas rather than having a billion email or text threads with family or friends about different stuff, it can all just live and organize in there. And what I love hearing you talk about the channels in the Tapestry Discord, whereas it's so easy for people online to end up just by default by themselves, like because you're not physically in proximity, in a space like you would be if you walk into a building, and you to have just a container to put the thing. I saw something and I want to share it, and now I have a space to share it. And there are people there who will receive it. Like that's the makings of relationship and community. And by simply providing a structure by which it's possible, like so that's the work you're doing of creating this infrastructure, and then it allows people to just have that exchange and have an outlet and have an input. And that's huge. That's
Yeah.
literally life changing. And I love that you say it's open 24/7. It's always
Yeah, open
available.
24/7 and searchable. So like if someone has come in the past and been like, "Hey, I'm struggling with suicide ideation and what do I do? Like my faith is really like does this mean I'm a bad Christian?" We can talk about that. And someone else who might be like, "I don't want to say that," can see that past conversation and be like, "Wow, these people will respond to me. They will respond to me in a positive way. So, if I want to, I can reach out to this one person who I know has also had this experience. So, like, I kind of in the future, I see, like, I'll probably have like a closed, because I can set it up for different people to have access to different ones. Like a closed one for, like, loss of a child, loss of, divorce, like all those things that, like, talking about them to everyone, you're going to get, sympathy, empathy, whatever. But talking to people who've also experienced it is a whole nother level. So to have those rooms, chat rooms where people can be like, we are all experiencing it or have experienced it, it just brings it to a whole nother level of
Yeah.
relationship and community.
I love that this to me highlights community is very much possible in any space. It just takes intentionality and probably some work in organizing. Like, just because you open up the doors to your building doesn't mean community automatically happens. You still have to be intentional about the way that people gather and where they go next, and are people greeting you, and what's the whole just user experience in a physical environment. And like you're saying here, these are examples of making possible connection and relationship and community that even then has different capabilities beyond what our, traditional brick and mortar experiences have been, because like you're saying, the ability to search the history and see the conversations and see the response, find that individual based off of the conversations you can eavesdrop on. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
I've heard stories of, like, oh, I walked into a church, and in that moment there was an AA group meeting, and that's exactly what I needed. And, it was just like this beautiful story. But that's like, 1 hour, one time a week, maybe one
Yep.
time a month. This is, you walk in, anytime someone walks into your church, your digital church, with a problem, that group is meeting.
Yep.
They're meeting
Yep.
right now. It's incredible.
I know if people want to check out other examples of Discord for online ministry and community, Nathan Webb's whole Checkpoint Church is all run on Discord as well. I definitely would recommend people there, which is the same exact kind of a thing, and good examples of how it's
Yeah, he's
structured.
got a
So
really robust group that's
yeah,
that's on there. Like,
you
they're
all
they're chatting all the time.
you all are brilliant. Uh, all right, so you're rocking Discord. Zoom is still a part of it. Um, I echo Zoom as well. I think there, I mean Zoom fatigue, meeting fatigue is a thing, but so is like in-person meeting fatigue,
Oh,
unless you're like super extrovert. So I mean, that's just called being peopled out, I think.
yeah.
But I'm with you. I think the value of Zoom and just the ability to have ways to connect in multiple modalities. And I think I love what you're doing with Discord, and I know Zoom is a part of what you do, offers that at Riverside. Sunday morning in particular often oscillates because we'll have like a Bible study that's happening on Zoom before the church service starts, and there's a good number of people in the building and online. It's a hybrid experience. And then the church service is broadcast live on YouTube. So there's a good number of people in the live chat who are very active there. And then we have virtual coffee hour after, and it's always interesting to me to see the correlation of the people who were most active in the live chat and then jumping on, being a part of virtual coffee hour. We connect with one another and talk with the preacher. But I like it because it just brings these different ways for people to have connection with one another. And to me, that to me is the work that a pastor does to cultivate community in any space, but it's particularly online, is you can't just expect it to happen in one, like, this is the only route. There has to be multiple paths of entry and multiple ways of overlap, because I think to me community is the thing that happens when all of that happens over time. It's not just I met you once, now we're best friends. It's we kept bumping into each other in different ways and having reasons to recall the previous thing, and a new inside joke is made, and that over time just builds into something beautiful. And I think, like we're saying, the internet might actually make it more possible to do that if we dive in and do it with the same or even greater intention, rather than just hoping it happens on accident.
I've seen a couple articles starting to come out about the how people are vulnerable on the internet more than they are in person. And I've said, like, anonymity is a blessing and a curse. You get the trolls, but you also get the people who are going to ask a question they would never put their face to. They'll make some account user 35762 ask the question, and so there is some real benefits that are starting to show of what people can do online as far as being vulnerable and being themselves. And I'm starting to play around with like extroverted spaces versus introverted spaces. I would say like my TikTok lives are really good for my introverted people because I was kind of noticing like there's people who will come to my lives but they're not getting on Zoom, they're not getting into the Discord, like they're not, or they're in the Discord, they're not chatting at all, and I believe presence is interaction, so that's fine. But I was like, why is that? And I really do think there are some people who are just much more comfortable listening to the conversation, nodding along, and just being like, yeah, that was great. As an extrovert, I don't understand that. Like, I need to get in, I need to talk about it, I need to let them know my opinion, but like, that's not everybody. And so, as I'm starting to like experiment with different things, I could see being like, okay, this is a more extroverted space. This is an introverted space. Um, I think about that live that I had, one of the first lives that I was like, oh, community is happening on TikTok, which was somebody came in, said that they were done with life, they had a rough day, this was it. And the strangers who came into the comments to be like, where are you? What's going on? Like, oh, you're 3 hours from me. Let's meet up. All that stuff. And I was like, what is happening? They don't know this person. I don't know this person. Like, what are we doing? Then to find out the next day that they went to that person's account the same as I did, saw that they had made it through the night and started texts like saying like, we're proud of you, so great to have you here, what do you want to do today, what are you looking forward to, and being like, these are strangers on the internet with a stranger on the internet, but they are caring and they are loving. And but that is a little bit more of it. Like if that person is more introverted, they might not call a hotline. They might not, put their voice, their phone number, their positioning into that system, but they can find some places where some people are and, let people know how they feel and get love in return in a way that is not scary to them. They're not trying to hug you. They're not trying to, get in your space. It's just these affirming words.
Makes me think that a lot of this just goes back to, you know, asking the question, what do we mean by community? Because so often the pushback that sometimes happens in digital ministry spaces is that this online stuff isn't real. It's not real community because there's this firm belief that community is like the ability to, share a meal and break bread and that kind of a mentality. And not to diminish the value in that, there's great value in that, but that's not the only definition of community. I would say that the what you just described, people being able to show up and support one another and be present in those particular moments when it's most needed, like, great, you can get a bunch of people and have a potluck, but who's going to be there in the moment of crisis? Like, to me, community is what allows for both of those to happen. If we just exclude one and not the other, so if we can paint the picture of what is community as this bigger thing, and then it makes me think, oh, I forget who it is. I'll put it on screen. This guy talked about these four spaces of belonging, which is nothing, that I'm making up. What does he say? There's like public space, communal space. Oh, I have it somewhere on my desktop here. Um, Public, social, personal, and intimate. And they have to do with like physical space and like the proximity, proxemics, that's what it's called. Oh, what's the guy's name? But the study of proxemics and how relationships shift with the physical closeness or distance you have. And like a public space, you have like 6 to 10 feet of distance. A social space, it gets closer and closer, and intimate is obviously very close. And I think there's often this myth that in churches it happens a lot of times. The goal is to get you from the public space and move you into the center, into the intimate space. It's like, no, that's not healthy. We can't manage that. That's just dysfunctional and leads to a lot of problems. But how do we provide people what they need in all of those spaces? How do we make sure there is some sort of connection or something offered and available in the public, in the social, in the personal, in the intimate, maybe not intimate even in faith communities. Save that for you and your partner or whatever. But what I'm saying is we need to repaint or refresh our screen on what we mean by community, and that helps,
Yeah.
in my mind, see the varied types of things that we're doing as all helping move towards the same ultimate end.
And I would say where we're one of our biggest weaknesses is that we're not giving credit to the public space. Like
Yeah.
we really want people to like get closer and closer, but it's still worth being out there and expressing your idea of the gospel, your love, your social justice, whatever it is, to the public. And I think that's a lot of what I do with the TikTok is like, those people, those 300,000 people are never going to all be on a Zoom meeting with me. They're never all going to be in my Discord. That would be super cool, but it's just not going to happen because some of them are just there for that public space to be like, okay, I have one Christian in my life that I can look at and say, wow, I really like the way that they're living their life. I like the way, but I'm not a Christian and I don't want to be, but I can like keep that space to be like, not all of them are going to be yelling at me on the street. So the public space, the public community space needs a little bit more attention, I feel, from especially progressive Christians to say like, I just want to let you know who we are, but I don't expect anything else.
And validating that as cultivating community. That's not just, being soapbox preacher who's yelling at passersby. You're creating a space for that wide range sense of belonging. They feel a sense of belonging in that public sense of I'm a part of this general conversation and momentum, and Rev Bethany's doing it and I get to check in and hear the latest thing and be inspired or be entertained or be whatever. Yeah, we need that, and we can't just diminish the value of that or not make space for it.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we could talk about cultivating community for days because it's literally our jobs. So we'll just have to keep doing it and then come back and give updates. But I've gotten some good insights on Discord just from this conversation. Zoom is still a valuable tool. The intentionality, the different spaces.
Yep. I'll throw a hint out there for virtual reality. Get your Oculus. Every church needs an Oculus. Even if it's a teenager playing on it, there's chat rooms out there where people are saying some things that we need to be here. They need to hear our voice. They need to hear our perspective. So, just get out there.
Okay, well, next time we'll talk about why churches should use VR. But
okay, good.
Maybe I need to use my VR at least one more time before I can be a conversation partner in that one. Otherwise, I will just be listening. I'll be the audience for that one.